agreed to investigative work and then potential further work, and you've not mentioned an increase in pay at that point.
No, the 30,000 each would cover your investigative work and then follow-up work. The bonus for you is that if you do some investigative work and find that there is no need for further work, we would pay you in full.
That's more of a lucky stroke for us then. So in reality, the 30K is to do whatever work the investigative work will be revealing, isn't it?
Call it a two-part job. And he smiles and says, I'm sure businessmen as intelligent as yourself can see that this is a startlingly good opportunity.
It is and it isn't. I usually ask extra for two-part jobs. I am going to DNI anyone else for any further questions because Mac is going to roll
So he's at that. He's
negotiation.
going to smile and say, "I could offer you 15,000 for the for the investigation and 15,000 for further work."
I'm still going to wait for anyone else to see if they want to say anything first because I do have a response to that.
Warden is he's tilted his head in the way that he expects him to keep talking.
Warden, Mac, or the Johnson?
The Johnson.
Okay.
No. So once the Johnson puts that offer forward, it's obviously not a very serious offer, but he just smiles and looks at you.
Clearly not.
All right. Is anyone going to be assisting in that? I can only take one dice anyway because I only have one rank in it, but
I'd like to assist in the negotiation. I'll say that, well, since you've engaged with experienced Shadowrunners here, and this is a two-part job, and our going fee would normally be 20k, but of course we are not unreasonable. So if we go down to 19k per part, that would be a fair way to meet, don't you think?
So you're asking him for 38,000 each?
Yep.
Okay, roll your negotiation at a -2 for that ludicrous offer.
I was planning to do it as an assist.
Roll your assist as a -2.
Yep.
And go ahead and roll the main roll. Are you going with that same tactic to try and get 38,000 each out of him?
no, I was going to say I'm just going to stick with we'd like a little bit more money, money in escrow, money up front, something that shows us you are serious about the offer, considering you've given us little information, which is somewhat common, but this is to the Arctic, which is a place where questions need to be answered before you get there. So we don't show up and, I don't know, get attacked by some sort of wild animal.
Yeah, so he smiles and says, yes, I can understand. You might be nervous. And go ahead and roll.
I will spend a point of edge. I will keep all those.
Okie dokie. So you get one net hit, and he interlocks his hands again and smiles at you. And he says, well, I'm sure we can come to some sort of arrangement. Of course, I am no amateur. The money will be in escrow, so long as you complete the job to the best of your ability. You will be paid in full. And of course, I am willing to offer you some amount up front. What number were you thinking of?
Mac is going to pause for a brief moment as the furious T&I conversation happens. Because Mac does not want to suggest a number that will, in fact, insult the Johnson. Oh, that's way too low to ask for a front. That's barely anything. Usually it's like, I want to say like a third or a quarter. I was more thinking 10.
10K?
I was
Yeah.
thinking 10K and see what he would negotiate back with.
Yeah, 10K would be nice.
So yeah, 10K it is. I'm assuming he's going to push back and get us to a lower number.
So you see a slight glint in his eye as there is like the millisecond pause during DNI that he is trained to perceive. And he says, well, that would be very generous of me, wouldn't it? How does 7,500 each upfront sound to you?
Sounds good to me.
He smiles and says, then can I assume you are all in?
I'm in.
Absolutely.
Of course.
His smile widens, and he says, well then, I suppose at this stage, seeing as we are all in this together, feel free to ask any questions you wish.
Mr. Johnson, what would you like to obtain in the Arctic?
He smiles and says, well, let's be clear, my employer would like to have some questions answered. It would seem that a outpost facility, I'm not entirely sure what you call it, has been having some trouble recently. And even more recently has been unable to respond to any attempt to get a hold of them. So we would like you to go over there and find out exactly what happened. My employer, of course, have their own theories.
You see Warden jot down some notes on his little pad, and he says, "What was this facility pertaining to? Magical research? Some other corporate venture?"
He nods and says, I have done some research into it. It would seem that the facility has changed hands a number of times over the past several years. At the moment, it is being used as a science facility. If you wish to ask exactly what for, again, I would recommend asking my employers. They would be far more able to give you an accurate representation of its purpose. But it has been used for a number of things in the past. I'm not entirely sure magical research was one of them. Not that I could see anyway.
Seeing as you're the middleman, and he kind of waves and says, as you've mentioned your employer several times, might you give us some information?
Oh, yes,
Your
of
employer.
course. I am employed, and now so are you, by Dalcorp. And I will spell that for you.
Thank you. You see him write that down as well. And I'll ping Smog at this point.
I would want to do a matrix search to see what I can dig up on that company.
Okie dokie. Go ahead.
Dalcorp's interests, I don't really have a corporate knowledge skill, but I'll kind of look expectantly towards everyone else. Do you
Fury
guys
looks
know, have you guys
expectantly
heard of
back.
Dalcorp?
I come
Okay,
from the land of no.
at the
Over
shrug.
DNI. Thought you were the one who looked like the wage slave here.
Fair enough, fair enough. Let's
So,
see.
with 3 successes on a matrix search, seeing as this is again public knowledge and readily available just by typing it into Google, you will be able to find that Dalcorp is a fairly small, fairly new scientific research corporation. It has a number of facilities all over the world, though they do seem to have a presence in Thule, which is Sixth World Greenland, which you would assume is where this is taking place, seeing as right next to the Arctic Circle.
All right, understood.
Are they a subsidiary of a larger corporation?
Not that you can see.
Okay.
I see. Typically, what would the day-to-day be over at Wallcorp? Dalcorp?
Are you asking me or are you asking the Johnson?
Asking the Johnson.
He will look at you and say, "What do you mean by day-to-day?"
What is your exports research?
He says, "Well, as I say, my knowledge of the exact details are slightly limited. I have only been employed by them quite recently."
And we'll be in contact with your employer when we arrive?
Oh, of course, of course. You will be directed straight to one of their facilities, and you will be briefed further from there.
Warden writes down some more with his pen. I see. And what would your contact information be so that we might get underway?
So you're asking basically for like a com code?
Basically.
Or just a name?
Com code. I don't care about his name.
Okay, so he will give you a com code and say, you can feel free to contact my contact at any time, though I would recommend checking when they are awake.
Okay. And you mentioned it was dinner time.
Yes, it's the evening right now.
Okay. We have plenty of time. What is the expected time frame, Mr. Johnson?
He says, well, we would like you to depart as soon as you are ready, but as soon as possible. As soon as you're able to make arrangements, we would want you to be on site to get this little mess sorted out at the earliest opportunity.
So you mentioned there was some kind of troubles at this outpost, but you've not provided a whole lot of details about the nature of these troubles. Is this the first time there are troubles at the facility? Do you know anything?
So
any more details?
He chuckles a little bit, and he says, "How familiar are you with the transpolar alute?"
I've not been to the polar regions before, no.
He smiles and says, "Well, there have been troubles there for quite some time. Typically, corporations are squabbling over mining rights, oil rights, etc., as well as problems with the indigenous population. Dalcorp has been under some pressure from Pisces Mining Company. My employer currently believes that they are responsible for these issues. They have been causing some trouble, though nothing quite on this scale before."
Could you write in the name of the mining corp you just said?
Yes. Excuse me, company. Pisces Mining Company.
At this, I would like to look up the public information on that company as well.
Okie dokie. So again, public record, and Pisces is way larger than Dalcorp. Yeah, so there's tons of information. They are kind of pioneering the mining